You are listening to the Fitz and Healthy podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Fitzgerald, also known as Lauren Fitz. I'm a medical doctor, a fitness instructor, an entrepreneur, a health and fitness coach, but most importantly, I am a lover of life. And here on the Fitz and Healthy podcast, I intend to give you a ton of great information and knowledge that will serve as potential power so that you can live a life by design and make it more fits and healthy. And don't forget to listen to the disclaimer at the end. I'm not your doctor, yo. All right, enjoy the episode. Much love. Ciao. Okay.
Hey.
Hello. Hey. What's up, y'all? Happy Friday, guys. Lauren Fitz here, combined with my co-host, Cinthanie from Cinthanie.com. What's up, girl?
What's up, girl? What's up?
I mean, we act like we haven't been hanging out for the last few hours.
This is true.
Yeah, most of you guys don't realize, but Fridays are our podcasting days. So we spend literally the whole morning together. The three of us, actually. Robert is behind the scenes and he's in our ears. Y'all don't hear him, but he likes to taunt us and try and make us not laugh and whatnot.
This is true.
So we just finished recording. Oh, first of all, I have to. I showed this on the podcast, but I'm drinking some Bulletproof coffee, decaf, by the way, because it's 1 p.m. here, and if I drink caffeine this late in the day, it'd totally affect my sleep. So do you see that?
Kinda classy, kinda hood.
And look at my T-shirt. Read it for him.
Drink some coffee, put some gangster rap on, and own it.
Amanda Huffington and Helen, you guys, love you guys. These were both gifts, and they're like some of my favorite gifts ever. And of course, I've got to drink Bulletproof coffee in my mug. So we just finished filming and recording an episode about fasting. And do you think that you learned a little bit
I do. And if you follow us on social media, you probably heard us talk about how we were performing an experiment this week, but we couldn't tell you about it until Friday. Dun, dun, dun. We were fasting.
Or attempting to fast.
Yeah, this is true. Attempting to fast.
So let's just give them a little brief synopsis, okay, before we get to the questions, because we already have 3 questions that were posted on with the YouTube video. The question video, yeah. And you guys, every week we're going to post that video so that you can put your questions there, and we know, like, we already have 3 questions going into today's episode, right?
Yeah.
So, but before we get into the questions, I definitely want to tell them the story. So, okay, it all started off with Cinthanie. She made a post about PMS and how that time of month she's just like,
I'm a crazy woman, and I had to ask if anybody else was that way, because I know I couldn't be the only person that way, and what they did to combat it. And I got some good advice and a lot of really bad advice.
Right? I know.
Really bad advice.
I read some of those comments. I'm like, oh God.
Some people were like, eat chocolate and lock yourself in a room. I'm like, I can't not be a person that whole week. Like, I still have responsibilities.
Right.
I can't lock myself in a room for a week.
No,
my fiance wishes, but
the fact is, the PMS, it's a syndrome, and there's, everyone has different symptoms of the spectrum, and then some of them are way more worse than others. And I definitely believe that it has everything to do with how much our hormones are out of whack. And a lot of people don't realize their hormones being out of whack is why they have not just problems with PMS, but problems losing weight, problems with diabetes, problems with all sorts of stuff. It's biology, not physics, but that's not what we're talking about today. So this is what gave me the idea, because I knew that we were going to talk about fasting in an upcoming episode, right? So when I read that comment, I'm like, I think that because, and I don't want to give all of the goods away because I want them to still listen to the episode.
You got to listen to the episode.
Exactly. But one of the benefits that comes along with fasting is resetting the hormone of insulin. And insulin is one of these hormones that I bet if many of you actually took the time to go measure your blood glucose, you would be unpleasantly surprised that you are probably dealing with insulin insensitivity. And that's essentially pre-diabetes.
Yeah.
And I will share with you guys, I'm 37 years old. I've been into like exercise has been, I've always, whether it was in the dance studio, I started teaching aerobics when I was a teenager. I started teaching my class, back in 2010. It's always been a part of my life. Right. And even despite that, 2 years ago, when I went to see a naturopathic doctor, almost all of my lab work was normal, except for I already had signs of insulin insensitivity, and I don't have diabetes in my family.
Yeah.
So if I had that, then I think a lot of you should be like, holy crap. Okay. Maybe I need to be informed, because diabetes, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
Shonda, I wouldn't even wish that on her. Just saying. That being said, so anyway, so long story short, I messaged Cinthanie and I'm like, I want us to do an experiment. You down for it? And she's like, sure, why not? She trusts me. She knows I got her back. So I was like, I want us to do, since we're going to record the episode of fasting, I want us to do a 7-day fast together. And I know a lot of you guys are like, wait, what? 7-day fast? And in the episode of fasting, about fasting, you guys are going to learn a lot, and hopefully that fear that you have of fasting is going to go away. But this was not my first 7-day fast. Actually, I've only had one 7-day fast, because neither Cinthanie nor I lasted all 7 days.
And we'll go into detail in the episode. I'll just leave it at that. You get all the details on the podcast episode. So.
Yeah. But we actually went into the fast. There was me, Cinthanie, Leah, and my mom. And your mom is about to start her
take it
own
on
fast.
This week. Yeah.
Yes. But my mom is the only one that has lasted.
Shout out to Mama Fitz.
I know. Shout out to Mama Fitz. She messaged me and she's like, I'm glad tomorrow's the last day, and I can't wait for the first meal, and I've missed my Shakeology. I didn't pay my mom to say that. Like like my mom misses her Shakeology. How cute is that? So, awesome. Shout out to Mama Fitz. But one of the rules that we do talk about in the fasting episode is, and this is all stuff I've learned, did not learn this in medical school, but learned that if you are going to try fasting, you have to listen to your body. And we went into it with the intention to go 7 days, but both Cinthanie and my own body told us, nope, this time you're not going to last for 7 days. And it's okay. That doesn't mean that we failed, but we definitely got some of the benefits from fasting. And of course, that episode, we talk about that. So So that being said, you know what I just realized that we didn't talk about?
What did we not talk about?
The gross stuff that came along with fasting.
Oh.
I know. We didn't even cover that, right?
Yeah, but that's definitely not going to be the first, or no, it's the first, but it won't be the last time that we talk about fasting.
You're right.
For another day.
You're right. No, I was making my bulletproof coffee and I'm like, oh, we didn't even address, because that's kind of funny. I mean,
true.
I knew to expect it, but I don't think you guys knew to expect it.
We addressed my gross details on it. Again, if you want all the good details, you're going to have to listen to that episode, because I'll only say it once.
Right. Okay. So we already have some questions that we're going to address. So let's go ahead and get to business.
So the questions that we have, so like Lauren said, we have a video now that will be posted every week that you can actually ask questions on throughout the week that we will address each Fitz Friday Live. So these are questions that we received throughout the week. This first one is from Caitlin Fredericks, and it says, I just found out that I'm pregnant. What exercises do you recommend? Can I still do Zumba?
Okay, so first things first, you guys, pregnancy doesn't mean that you stop normal life. And in fact, one of the worst things that you can do when you're pregnant is stop exercising and stop eating healthy.
Yeah, amen.
And I just read Leah's comment. She said, my poor dog. And I'll just say, Dutch oven syndrome. Do you know what a Dutch oven is?
Well, I know what it is, but like there's a couple different ones, and so I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I know at least.
I'll just say when you fast, your GI tract it does some funny stuff, and our dogs were not. Our dogs were like, wait, that usually comes from me. What?
Yeah. Okay. If you want the details, you're gonna have to listen to that episode.
Yeah, even though we don't talk about those details.
Yeah, people are asking questions about it, but if you want like the nitty gritty of what the fast was like, what it did for us, you're gonna have to wait for that episode.
Yeah.
Anyway,
for sure.
So
for sure.
okay. Back to exercising while pregnant.
Okay.
Squirrel.
So one thing I remember in med school when I learned that pregnant women actually only need an extra 300 calories a day, which I'm like, wait, what? That's like nothing. That's like, I mean, and
so you don't have to eat for two?
Yeah, it's crazy. No, essentially, yes. But so many pregnant women, and of course, I can already hear the people in their, whether they voice it or they're saying in their mind, they're like, "Oh, you hussies don't even know. You've never been pregnant." Yes,
neither of you have been pregnant.
Yes, I will give you that. I've never been pregnant.
Yeah.
Nor do I plan on it. She plans on it. But the fact is, neither of us have been there. Yeah. You got to get married
on
first.
Wood right now.
Yeah, right. For real. But the fact is, medically speaking, when you're pregnant, you only need an extra 300 calories. And think about all of the women who are like in third world countries like Africa that don't have the ability to eat more, like literally,
this is true.
and their bodies function just fine. They don't stop moving. They don't stop. And in fact, pregnancy is so much worse on you if you stop doing exercise. Now, obviously, if you're someone who has, like, let's say cervical incompetency, which basically means that your cervix is the thing that dilates when you're ready to pop baby out, right? And it dilates to 10 centimeters. And then once the cervix is dilated to 10 centimeters, that's when baby's head is ready to come through and the whole delivery process, right? Mm-hmm. But there are some women that have incompetent cervixes. And literally, those are the women that are put on bed rest for like months once that diagnosis is given to them. So obviously you have to listen to your OBGYN, but the fact is, if you are a normal, healthy pregnant woman, you should not stop exercising. And in fact, you guys know Kelsey is due at the end of July. She is still taking.
Dang, soon?
I know. Isn't that
Holy
crazy?
Moly.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
She actually still takes the boot camp class that she takes at the place that I used to teach. It's no longer called Key Health. It's called Key Fit or something like that. But anyway, she still takes boot camp. She still kicks everyone's booty in the class. And she listens to her body, but she hasn't stopped exercising. Sure. And in fact, she just started doing a Whole30 again. And cool. I talked to her just yesterday, and I'm like, what made you think about doing that? And she's like, my sugar cravings got out of control because sugar's like a drug, and I mean, even just a little bit tells the brain, and you start craving it. And so she told me, she's like, yeah, everyone's like, what are you thinking? And I'm like, during pregnancies, when you want to feed your body the
best.
Yeah. I mean, and that's all Whole30 is. It's not restriction. It's you're feeding yourself whole natural food.
Yeah.
Hello?
Whole30 is great.
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, that's essentially what I follow. A lot of the foods that I first learned to eliminate, like I didn't realize that the gas that I was experiencing was from dairy, and I shouldn't be eating dairy, right? But more details than everyone wants to know. So hopefully that answers their question.
You can still exercise, of course. Consult your doctor in moderation. Blah blah blah. But
I'm not your doctor. Yada yada yada.
Neither am I, even though I'm an honorary MD. Is that what we decided I was?
Yes. HMD, honorary MD.
Okay, so next question is from Allison Matson. She said, what are your thoughts on consuming pure local honey? I know a lot of people who use it to treat allergy symptoms, but also know it contains sugar.
Correct. And my opinion of just consuming sugar in general, we consume too much, and like I just said, sugar acts on the brain just like a drug. And once the body, once whatever form of sugar goes into the body, it sees it as sugar, right? So whether you're having agave nectar or honey or molasses or all of the different forms in which we try and justify, well, it's natural. Okay, you're right. But sugar spikes your insulin the most, and these crazy waves of insulin spiking, insulin dropping, insulin spiking, insulin dropping. That's what's leading to a lot of our problems with our own metabolism, with our own body, with our own weight loss. And like for me, once I started measuring my blood glucose, once I realized that I had some insulin insensitivity, despite not being overweight, despite eating healthy, despite always exercising, and I started following that, I realized that even when I have natural sugars from fruit, my blood glucose spikes more than I would like it to. So, the best thing to do, knowledge is power, right? Or potential power. And if you want to really know what that honey does to your body, go to Amazon and buy. I mean, the blood glucometers are like $40. You can go to Walmart and get them. I mean, they're not expensive. You don't have to be diabetic to have a blood glucometer, and start measuring your blood glucose. Start measuring it at your fasting blood glucose in the morning after you haven't eaten anything for 12 hours and see what it's at. Measure your blood glucose 2 hours after you've eaten the honey. And if it's still really high, don't eat it. I don't care if it's natural and it helps with your allergies. The best thing to do for your allergies is to eliminate refined carbohydrates and sugar in general. All of the foods that cause inflammation, that's going to be the best way that you can deal with your allergies, honestly.
And I know a lot of people recommend local honey because it has local pollen in it. So I have heard the same thing, and I struggled with allergies here in Texas. It's really bad. So what I did instead of buying local honey is I bought local bee pollen. And you just mix it in water, and it might be hard to find, but try to find somebody local in your area that's a local farmer, or that if they have local honey, they're going to have local bee pollen. And you just mix it in water. It's not delicious, but if that's what you're eating honey for, is for the anti-allergy benefits, then you can drink a glass of pollen and be okay.
That's
but that's what I did. That's what I did.
I actually, because Oklahoma is known for bad allergies, and I actually experimented. I personally, and granted my N of 1 is just my experience, but I personally didn't get any observational benefit from it. I noticed the most my allergies are not affected when my nutrition is on point. When I'm not eating refined carbohydrates, when I'm not eating sugar, when I'm not eating dairy, all of the things that cause inflammation, that's when my allergies were best. Okay, what was the third? Third was complicated.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of summarize a little bit. It says that over the last 18 months, I have become the healthiest I've ever been. I've lost 40 pounds. Thank you, Lauren, for the help through that process.
Yay.
But she says that, however, she's noticed that her hair is falling out. It's always been crazy thick, so it isn't a problem yet, but I'm worried that it could become a problem. Have you ever heard of this happening? Is there something that I should try to do to stop it?
My first thought is there's something going on with your hormones. And so changing nutrition, I would love to know what changing your nutrition is. And wondering what kind of imbalances you have, because oftentimes a symptom, and I'm not saying that you have low thyroid, but that is a symptom of hypothyroidism, is hair loss. I'm hoping that if you've followed my advice, you're not doing calorie restriction. And I'm hoping that you're following a more whole food, natural type nutrition plan. But your hair being lost, that immediately makes me think that something's going on with your hormones. And, ask around. I don't know what kind of city you're in, but ask around for a reputable naturopathic physician who, or naturopathic doctor that can help you, look at all of these different factors and get you back into whack. So hopefully that helps.
So, Lori says, "Hey girls, looking fabulous as always." Hey Lori, shout out to Lori.
What's up, Lori?
We love Lori. Janine Lambridge wants to know. She said, "What should your blood glucose be number wise?"
I like mine to be in the 80s. And like, for instance, when I eat fruit, sometimes it will be over 100. I do not like it to be over 100. And so when I see it over 100, I reevaluate, well, what did I eat the night before or 2 hours before? And why did I not have the adequate response? And all that means is in layman's terms is that your insulin is not working the way it should, because when you eat whatever, your insulin is spat out by your pancreas to get that blood glucose out of the blood into the cells, because blood glucose hanging out in the blood does damage, the damage that leads to the problems that you see with diabetics, the blindness, the losing, the amputations, the heart attacks, the dementia, like all of these end organ damage processes that happen with the diabetics. It's because you're chronically going with high blood glucose, and the body doesn't like for you to have high blood glucose in the blood.
Yeah. She also asked, how do you calculate what it should be?
There's no everyone should have it less than 100. Obviously, if you're a type 1 diabetic, that's your goal. And of course, I really want them to listen to the episode that we just recorded, because there's a lot of people that think that they're doomed to always being on their diabetic medicines their whole life. Of course, we want them to listen to the Fitz and Healthy podcast, but a podcast that I would recommend them listening to is the Fasting Talk with Dr. Jason Fung and Jimmy Moore. And for those of you that are podcast virgins, you might not recognize Jimmy Moore's name, but Jimmy Moore has one of the longest standing health and fitness podcasts. Actually, it's not fitness, it's health podcast. Living La Vida Low Carb. And this man has a really incredible personal story. He was morbidly obese and has essentially, without surgery, without any magic pill, lost all his weight with practicing a low carbohydrate lifestyle and fasting. And you can learn a lot about fasting just from listening to their podcast. But of course, listen to Fitz and Healthy first.
Yeah. So Lobato Mom says, I'm very new to fasting. Is anyone able to just start a fast, i.e. is there prep involved before jumping right in, regardless of any current health issues?
That's a great question. So there are certain types that shouldn't fast, but they are a very small percentage. So if you've ever battled with any anorexia or bulimia, if you are malnourished and underweight, if you are pregnant, if you are breastfeeding, or if you have major medical problems. Obviously, if you have major medical problems, you need to talk about fasting with your physician. But especially people that are on dialysis and congestive heart failure, because their fluid balance is it's this fine tipping where, you literally can just tip it a little bit and it can put them into heart failure. It can it's a very fine balance. And those patients, are the sickest. But assuming that you're not in that small percentage of people that I just talked about the exception, fasting is like, it's a no-brainer. It's so easy, but it's something that and we talked about this in the episode, you oftentimes have to build up your fasting muscle. There are some of you that could go straight into fasting. And of course, officially speaking, if you're going to fast longer than a day, you should probably talk to your physician and be under medical supervision. And I am not your doctor. Did I say that already? But the fact is that a pure water fast supplemented with salt, because when you go into a fast, you decrease your carbohydrate. You decrease all macronutrients, but that leads to a diuresis, which is basically a medical term for you pee out a lot. So a lot of initial weight loss is water loss, but that can make your electrolytes be out of balance. So that's why I say a water fast supplemented with salt. And literally, you can take an eighth of a teaspoon of Himalayan salt and just put it on your tongue, let it absorb, and that will give you the electrolytes and the minerals that you need to supplement during that water fast. A lot of people should ease into fasting, and intermittent fasting is a great way to start building that fasting muscle, like you and I talked about on the episode. And a lot of people that follow us already have started experimenting or already are intermittent fasters. So, but there's no magic to it, but if anything, I wanted people to start opening their minds to the idea that fasting is not starving, and make the point that you made on the episode, because I think it's a great point.
There's a difference between starving and fasting, because starving is not by choice. It's something that is not in your control. It's just due to your circumstances, as where fasting is being able to have access to the food and nutrients that you need, but choosing not to use it for the health benefits of fasting.
And a great comparison that I made was, the people that were in the, the camps during the Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they faced starvation. They didn't know when they would get their next meal. They had no
Yeah.
control. Fasting, I have complete control. And
Right.
Granted, I had intention to go 7 days of fasting, but I listened to my body. That's one of the first rules that you have to know when you go into fasting. You have to learn to listen to your body.
Yeah.
And if your body is telling you, like if you're getting nauseous and that's your body's way of saying, okay, it's time to end this 7-day fast on day 4, which I made it to day 4. I have done a 7-day fast, but I've only done one, and I felt great. And that's the thing, is that most people, the first 2 days are the most difficult. And then once you get past that, it's actually relatively easy. Relatively easy. It's easy. It's easy. Yeah. So, okay. So what other questions do we have?
So I don't see any yet, but Carolyn had a really sweet comment. She said that, hey, Fitz and Healthy Foxes, Confessions of a Fitz and Healthy Addict. My new Friday work schedule ends at 3. And if I'm interrupted, I will growl because I love listening to you guys.
Aww.
We love you, Carolyn.
Yeah. Carolyn's one of my girls from OKC. Love her. All right. So no more questions then?
Not that I see. Just sweet comments from Loboto Mom also says that, awesome, I'm getting started with intermittent fasting after the Melissa Made podcast. I can't wait to learn more. You ladies are truly a blessing.
Yay. Excellent. And then let's see, Confessions Addict, my new Friday. Oh, that's the Carolyn.
That's what I just read.
Okay. Sweet.
Leah said, though, she said, can you speak to those who have had gastric bypass and explain that they can fast too?
Absolutely.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And this was one thing that, that Leah asked me right away. And, absolutely. And honestly, I think, especially because a majority of people that have had gastric bypass, you lose weight initially, but then a lot of them regain it back. And it has everything to do with the hormone of insulin. And if you don't understand that your imbalance of your metabolism has everything to do with your hormones, then you're going to go back to the whole eat less, exercise more. And that just doesn't work. And I feel like I've made this point somewhere, either on a podcast or a live video. I can't keep track with all the times that I talk about this sort of stuff. But if you take note, there has never been a Biggest Loser reunion, right? The Biggest Loser has been on for how many years?
I never thought about that. That's such a good point.
But the reason why is because they all gain their weight back, because they all slow down their metabolism to ungodly levels, and it's hard to recover because they follow a severe caloric restriction, and they follow this ideation that if we eat less and exercise more, that's the answer. And guys, it's not. We've been doing this for 50, 60 years, and look at where it's gotten us. So to change that way of thinking is so important. And so the person that's had gastric bypass, you will still benefit from the insulin lowering results of fasting. And Leah and I both we both lasted till Wednesday. It was funny because Leah confessed to me yesterday, and I had forgotten to tell her that I didn't feel too well, so I ended up eating on Wednesday as well. She was relieved to hear that, by the way. but all of us, none of us lasted to day 7, but all of us listened to our body, which, that's the most important thing. Yeah. And, the fact is that I will always make fasting part of my routine, in my week to week month. And so some weeks, if a 24-hour fast is going to fit into my schedule, the anti-cancer beneficent. I can't talk today, and I just had.
You're making up a lot of words.
I know. That's like the 10th new word I've made up today.
The Fitz and Healthy dictionary is growing by the minute.
Yeah, for real. But a lot of the benefits from fasting come from the autophagy, which is that leads to anti-cancer benefits. And that was one of the reasons why one of the reasons that we talked about in the episode. But we still had benefits from it, but I will continue to grow my fasting muscle. But that also, when I fast, but when I feast, I feast. And so that means that on my days that I'm eating, I don't calorie restrict, because calorie restriction on days that I'm supposed to be feasting is going to lead to the Biggest Loser syndrome, which is basically going to slow down my metabolism. But and that's one thing that we didn't cover, is that a misconception about fasting slowing down your metabolism. So calorie restriction fasting actually speeds up your metabolism. And I mean, it makes sense. If you don't have a medical degree or a nutrition degree or whatever, it doesn't matter, because if you go back to the way our caveman ancestors functioned, they either feasted or famine. They didn't have refrigerators. They didn't have 7-Elevens. When they had food, they feasted and they ate till their bodies told them they were full. They didn't worry about counting calories. They didn't worry about what the ingredients were, because there was no ingredients. They were eating whole natural foods from the earth and from their kills. They were hunters and gatherers. But they, there are plenty of times where they would have to fast for days, and our bodies are meant to be able to survive. Otherwise we would not be here as humans,
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay.
So Derby wants to know, she said, so should we exercise on an empty stomach to pull energy from our fat stored?
So that's a misconception. Well, not a misconception. So a misconception of not being able to exercise if you're fasting. In fact, there's a lot of athletes that will tell you that they perform better when they are fasted. Fasted cardio is something that, if you've just now heard of fasted cardio, you need to
get out from
Google.
Under the rock
I know,
you live under.
I know. But that was one of the things when I first started experimenting with intermittent fasting, because I taught a Saturday morning class. I'm like, how am I going to teach without, having breakfast? And I realized, like, not only was I able to teach, but I actually felt better. I had more energy. And that's one thing that surprises people. To actually burn your fat on your body for fuel, you have to be able to switch. And this is a term that is just kind of thrown around, but you have to switch from sugar burning mode to fat burning mode. And in the episode that we just talked about, we made the analogy of the refrigerator versus the deep freezer, and the refrigerator is like our sugar burners, and we just went to the grocery store and we're going to eat all of the food in our refrigerator. But if we're lazy and we don't want to get out to go to the grocery store, and we're empty, our refrigerator is empty, we're going to go down to the basement where there's an endless supply of food. And that's essentially what you do when you tap into your fat storage, is that you stop burning the sugar for fuel, and all of a sudden you start burning the fat for fuel. And that's what our body was designed for. That's the whole purpose of adipose tissue, is to get us through those fasting periods that humans have been facing forever, you know? So hopefully that answers that question.
So Katie Lowe wants to know, she said, so it's a myth when people say that your body goes into starvation mode and holds on to the goo? I love that she used goo.
Yes. Wait, read that again.
Okay. So she said, so it's a myth then when people say that your body goes into starvation mode and that you hold on to the fat.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You will slow down your metabolism. So a great analogy is, okay, you have a person who, let's say, went into real estate, okay? And whatever changes, all of a sudden you made a ton of money, right? And you've got lots of money in the bank. So you go and you ask for a loan, and the bank is like, well, sorry, I can't guarantee that, next year you're going to have this booming thing. So you cut back on your resources, and you live as if you're not living that way, right? And when when we constantly live in calorie deprivation mode, we tell our body that this is the new standard. This is the way we live, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're living on a budget, that's good. But when you're telling your body, well, you're only going to have 800 calories a day, your body adjusts to it and it gets used to it. And so that's why calorie deprivation is different from fasting, because calorie deprivation tells the body, it resets that homeostasis, that new set point. So if you have always eaten, between 1,500, 2,000 calories, and you go on a calorie restricted diet, and now you're only feeding it 1,000 calories, your body gets used to it. And that's when it slows down metabolism. But fasting does the opposite. It speeds up the metabolism because you're constantly changing things up. You're going from feasting or fasting.
Yeah.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah, no, I think so.
Okay.
So Gina Walkenhorst wants to know, she said, calories in versus calories out. I understand to make good choices in the calories you consume, but we still need to deficit in order to lose weight, correct?
No, incorrect.
Yeah. We just did a whole episode last week on calories in versus calories out.
And a great, so yeah. I mean, it would take forever to answer that, but the long story short is no. And I mean, think about mammals in nature. They don't count calories. They eat the foods that their body was designed to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we just get back to eating the foods that our body was designed to eat, calorie counting doesn't matter. And because those foods give your body the signals that corrects your biology, your hormones.
Yeah.
And just to unlearn that thinking process of that ultimately I had this many calories. It's ultimately, well, the food that I ate, I cheated today and I probably jacked with my insulin or the, maybe my estrogen, the food that I ate probably had some hormones that made me estrogen dominant. Like that's how I want people to start thinking about food is that how is this food jacking with my hormones?
Yeah.
Because it's the hormones that are out of balance. I mean, that's ultimately the root of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sarah Stevens said, what are your thoughts on how the American Heart Association just released a study saying coconut oil is bad for you? They said that it's as bad as cooking with animal fat.
I would say I don't believe any of those big organizations because they all have their hands in big pockets.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, the fact is, if 100% of the people on this planet knew what we have learned and started eating whole natural foods, unprocessed foods, big food companies would go under, big pharmaceutical companies would go under, medicine would go under, and probably our government would be the last. But the fact is, if you take this potential power that is knowledge and put it to practice, you're going to get off of those medicines that you were led to believe are destined to be on for the rest of your life. The idea of a physician not telling you that, hey, you have type 2 diabetes and it's a nutritional based disease process. So let's treat the nutrition instead of here's your prescription that you're going to be on the rest of your life. Yep. I mean, so I don't trust any big organizations like that at all.
Me either. And you're talking about the same people that have made the food pyramid and the same people that have said this is what you need to eat in a day, and it just
the same people that ignored the crappy medical science that says that eating cholesterol leads to heart disease. It's BS. It's not right. It's not there. But there's so much that it all goes down to greedy big companies, honestly.
Yeah. Yep.
So any other questions that we're missing?
I think we're good.
Okay. But you can overeat good food as well and gain weight. So confusing. So Gina, that's a good point. So when you are eating the food that you're supposed to, so let's say you get a huge platter of broccoli.
Yeah.
Are you going to eat that whole platter? No. When you have a steak that's brought to you that's like 20 ounces, that first bite is so good. And the second bite is really good. But then the third bite, it's okay, it's good. And then by the 20th bite, your body's telling you no more steak, right? Because when you feed your body the foods that it's supposed to have. It gives signals to your brain and it tells you when you're supposed to stop eating. So you don't need a Fitbit or a phone app or to tell you, oh, you've reached your caloric max, no more. Like food is a signal to your body. And but so many of us have eaten the wrong foods and you've jacked with your insulin. And I guarantee that if you got your hormones in balance, because I bet you anything, you've got some insulin insensitivity. I would bet lots of money on that because I mean, it's insulin's probably, I mean, all of our hormones are important, obviously, but insulin is one of the most important hormones that gets out of whack that leads to all of these problems. So I do see Kathy, I run half marathons, but I cannot even eat before a race, but about 1.5 hour, but about 1 hour after get on my way, I need some food. No, you don't. You're just not, you're not fat adapted, honestly, Kathy. You're still a sugar burner. And that's, again, you see all these marathon runners that are putting, artificial fake foods into their body to fuel them. And that's why if you do any reading on ketogenic athletes, like they've learned to burn their own fuel for fuel, or their own fat for fuel sources, because that's what it's there for. It's your deep freezer.
Yep. So Lori asked, she said, I have a bad habit of using muscle soreness as a reason not to work out because I don't want to be sore for the next couple of days. What are some good post-workout tips to help with muscle recovery?
Hydration is a great point. Post-workout stretching before actually is shown to not be beneficial and actually can set you up for injury. But stretching afterwards, definitely good. Making sure that you have good nutrition and that your electrolytes are in balance. A lot of people are walking around low in magnesium, and that's a great muscle relaxant. You can take an Epsom salt bath at night. You can get your transdermal absorption of magnesium from Epsom salt. But at the end of the day, you said it yourself, Lori, you're using it as an excuse. And ultimately, it's just like it's just like any muscle. You have to use it to build up to it. And so if you go in to a gym and you haven't exercised in forever and you do the same workout that the person who's about to go to a fitness competition has done, of course you're going to be sore. So you have to build up to it. And that might mean that you hire a personal trainer or get a coach or something like that. So, but yeah, the underlying thing is it's an excuse, and excuses hold us back from really great things.
Agreed.
So any other questions that we're missing?
No, that's all that I see for now.
All right. Good deal. Well, and it's about 45 minutes. Sweet. Because I want to keep these things between 30 and 45 minutes. So thank you guys so much for your questions. Just make sure that as you have questions, you can email us the questions at info@clubfitzfitness.com, or you can leave them on the videos that we post asking for questions. Sometimes we'll have themes for our Fitz Friday Q&A, and sometimes we'll have off-site locations like New Orleans in July.
Hey.
And we may or may not have a nice little visitor who is going to be sitting in between us.
Hey, I ain't mad about it.
Yeah, I ain't mad about it
either. To be continued.
Amen. All right, guys. Well, hopefully this has brought some value to your life and entertainment as well. And if you haven't thought about fasting, I challenge you to be open-minded to the possibility, and it might be the missing link in your own health and fitness journey that helps you get to that next level. So Cinthanie, what do you want to remind them?
You are a good person who deserves good things to happen to you.
Amen. Hope you guys all have a Fitz and Healthy Friday. Ciao.
Bye.
Make sure that you find us on social media. You can find Cinthanie on Instagram and Facebook at Cinthanie. So that's CINTHANIE, and on Snapchat at Cinthanie P. And find me on social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all at Club Fitz Fitness. Remember, that's FITZ Fitness. And on Snapchat, just at Club Fitz. I appreciate your time listening so much. If you enjoyed this episode of the Fitz and Healthy podcast, can you please go do me a favor and go subscribe whatever platform that it is that you listen to podcasts. Leave a review. We read every single review, and we appreciate the time that you take to leave your thoughts and opinions. Now, also remember, while I am a medical doctor, the information I provide here is not intended to provide medical advice or a professional diagnosis, opinion, treatment, or services to you or to any other individual. I am providing general information for educational and informational purposes only, and it is not a substitute for medical or professional care. You should not use this information in place of a visit, call, consultation, or the advice of your physician or other healthcare provider. The information I share is not intended to treat, cure, or diagnose any disease or medical condition. If you believe you have a medical emergency, just call 911 immediately or your physician. Now, enough of that medical legal jargon. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I appreciate your time. Now go live a Fitz and Healthy life.